On Doomsday, the day everything in my life collapsed, my husband, Marcus Carter, sued me for divorce. He accused me of being a failure as a wife and an unfit mother. He demanded full custody of our 7-year-old daughter, Zoe, and even tried to take every piece of property we owned. But inside that courtroom, something happened that none of us expected. A small voice echoed through the silent chamber. It was Zoe. "Your Honor," she said, clutching something behind her back. "Can I show you something? Something my mommy doesn't know about." The judge paused, then nodded gently. Zoe stepped forward, raised her cracked old tablet, and pressed play. A video filled the monitors, and the entire room froze. But before reaching that moment, everything began on what seemed like an ordinary morning. That morning, Emily Carter, had been awake long before sunrise. The comforting smell of pancakes and scrambled eggs filled the kitchen, blending with the faint scent of detergent from the washing machine humming in the laundry nook. I moved quietly, automatically, the way I had trained myself to move for years. I had learned to live like a shadow in my own home, careful never to disturb Marcus's peace, never make noise, never complain, never give him a reason to snap. At exactly 600 a.m., Marcus came downstairs, impeccably dressed as always, crisp shirt, polished shoes, the subtle cologne he liked to wear to the office. I instantly placed a steaming mug of black coffee and a fresh breakfast plate in front of him. He didn't lift his eyes from his phone, He simply reached for the mug. "The coffee's a little bitter today," he muttered. "I'm sorry." "Honey, I thought I measured it right." I replied quietly. He didn't respond. He pushed the eggs away slightly, took a few bites, and kept scrolling. I stood there like a ghost, waiting for more instructions that never came. I couldn't remember the last time we had shared a joyful breakfast. Maybe 2, 3 years ago, before he started working late, before the business trips that stretched longer each time, before the coldness that slowly replaced everything we once had. "Is Zoe awake?" he asked. "Yes. She's showering. She'll be down soon." Right on cue. Tiny footsteps pattered down the stairs. Zoe, wearing her private school uniform and her warmest smile, rushed toward us. "Good morning." "Mommy, good morning." Daddy." She kissed my cheek before bouncing over to Marcus. He finally put down his phone and forced a small smile for her. "Morning. Princess. Eat up. Daddy's taking you to school today." "Really?" Yay, Zoe grinned. A small breath of relief escaped me. At least Marcus still pretended to be warm in front of her. Breakfast with Zoe was the only moment that still felt like family. But as soon as she finished eating, Marcus stood, grabbed his briefcase, kissed Zoe on the forehead, and walked straight past me. Not a word, not a glance, not even a nod. Only the sound of his expensive car roaring away filled the large empty house. After that, my day continued like every other. Clear the table, wash the dishes, switch the laundry, clean the rooms, repeat. I did everything with precision. I always hoped that if I kept the house perfect enough, if I stayed quiet enough, if I cooked well enough, maybe the old Marcus would come back. But the man I married had disappeared a long time ago. Around noon, I picked Zoe up from school, my favorite part of the day. She held my hand and chattered nonstop about her teachers, her classmates, the new art project she was proud of. "Mommy, I got 5 gold stars today." "Look," she announced. I kissed her forehead. "That's amazing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." We were just stepping inside the house when the rumble of a motorcycle stopped at our door. A courier in uniform called out, "Delivery for Emily Carter?" My brows knit together. I hadn't ordered anything. Zoe peeked over my arm. "What is it?" "Mommy, I'm not sure. Probably junk mail. Go change. Sweetheart." When she ran off, I sat on the living room sofa, tore open the large brown envelope with trembling hands, and pulled out a thick stack of documents. The first line stole the breath from my lungs. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My heart stopped. Plaintiff Marcus Carter, Defendant Emily Carter. The stated reason: the wife has failed entirely in her marital duties. My vision blurred. Failed, I had given up my career at his request. I cared for our child. I took care of the home, his meals, his clothes, everything. What did he mean, failed? My hands shook as I read Marcus's demands. They were cruel, beyond cruel. He wanted full custody of Zoe. He claimed I was emotionally unstable and unfit to raise her. And worst of all, he demanded everything we owned the house. The accounts arguing I had contributed nothing financially. The paper slipped from my fingers. My knees buckled. So this was why he'd grown so cold. He wasn't just leaving me. He'd been planning my destruction. At that moment, the front door opened. Marcus walked in early, something he almost never did. He looked at me collapse on the floor, at the papers scattered around, and didn't flinch. "Marcus, what is this?" My voice broke. "Why would you do this?" He loosened his tie slowly, his face blank. "It's exactly what you read. I don't want to live with you anymore. Emily, you failed as a wife, and you failed as a mother." My chest tightened. "I've taken care of this home," I raised. "Taken care?" He cut in with a smirk. "All you've done is spend my money." Zoe deserves better. A competent mother. Not someone who only knows how to cry. I shook my head, trembling. "You can't take Zoe. You can't take everything from me." Marcus crouched, his eyes sharp like a blade. "I can. And I will. My lawyer has gathered everything we need. You won't get a single dollar." I choked on my breath. "And get ready," he added with a cruel smile. "My lawyer says even your own daughter will testify against you." A chill spread down my spine. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed beside Zoe as she dreamed peacefully, unaware of the storm her father had set in motion. The next morning, Marcus behaved as if nothing had happened. He helped Zoe get dressed, tied her shoes, fixed her ponytail, playing the role of the perfect father. When she asked why my eyes were swollen, he answered casually, "Mommy's just not feeling well." "Princess, after they left, true terror set in. I had to fight. I couldn't lose Zoe. I grabbed my phone, searching desperately for a divorce attorney. But every office I called required a retainer fee, $3,000, $5,000, sometimes more just for the consultation. I didn't have that kind of money. For years. Marcus had kept me on a tight allowance. Only enough for groceries, school fees, and essentials. No savings. No safety net. Nothing. My only hope was the joint account, the one Marcus and I had always called our emergency fund. I opened my banking app with shaking hands, praying. Balance 0, so when my stomach dropped. I refreshed the page again and again, hoping it was a glitch. It wasn't. I opened the transaction history. Over the last 6 months, Marcus had withdrawn huge amounts, each transfer made to an account I didn't recognize. The last withdrawal, 3 days ago, had emptied the account completely. He had planned all of this. He hadn't just left me. He had financially crippled me to make sure I couldn't fight back. My breath quickened as panic took over. I ran to my bedroom closet and pulled out my jewelry box, the one holding my wedding ring, my mother's bracelet, the pearl necklace Marcus gave me on our 2nd anniversary. It was empty. Only a few cheap earrings remained. Marcus had taken everything. My last lifeline appeared suddenly in my memory, my old friend from college who worked at a legal aid office. I called her, sobbing, and explained everything. She didn't have the power to represent me, but she gave me a name, Emily. "Go see attorney Daniel Brooks. He's not fancy, but he's honest. And he actually cares." I had no other choice. With the little cash I had left, I took a cab to a worn-out strip mall on the edge of town. Daniel Brooks's office was exactly what I imagined: older, modest, paint slightly peeling. But when he greeted me, his eyes were kind. He listened quietly as I told him everything, every bruise on my heart, every accusation Marcus had invented, every dollar missing from our accounts. When I finished, he exhaled slowly and leaned back. Emily, your husband has prepared this very thoroughly. He doesn't just want a divorce. He wants to erase you. I swallowed. I don't care about the house or the money. I can't lose Zoe. Please, I'll pay you somehow installments. Anything, just help me keep my daughter. Daniel shook his head gently. We'll worry about the money later. What matters is we act fast. He disappeared into the back room and returned with a thick folder, copies of the filings, Marcus's attorney. Richard Cole had submitted to the court. Let's see what we're up against. My stomach twisted. The first pages were photographs, pictures of my home in disarray. Dishes piled high, toys scattered, laundry overflowing, all taken on the week I'd had a 103-degree fever and Marcus refused to help. This is misleading, I whispered. I was sick. I could barely stand. Daniel nodded grimly. They're using context against you. Next came credit card statements, luxury handbags, jewelry, upscale restaurants' charges totaling thousands. All under my name. I didn't buy any of this. I said, my voice rising. Marcus managed the card. He always took it. Said his main one hit the limit because of work dinners. And he kept the receipts. Daniel said, because he knew he would use them. I felt the room tilt. Every favor. Every time he insisted on handling finances. Every time he brushed off my questions, it had all been his setup. Then Daniel stopped on the most damaging document. Emily, this is their expert witness. I took the papers. My skin grew cold. It was a report from a child psychologist, Dr. Pfeil, Vanessa Hale, claiming she had observed me in public with Zoe and concluded I was emotionally unstable, negligent, and unfit as a mother. This is insane, I whispered. I've never even met her. When did she observe me? How Daniel tapped the paper. According to this, at the park, at the mall, at school pickup. I shook my head. I would have noticed someone watching me. She's registered with the psychological board, Daniel said carefully. Her credentials are clean, too clean. So either she's a real doctor who's been paid to lie, or Marcus forged an entire professional identity for her. But we can't accuse her without proof. I covered my face. So we can't fight her testimony. We can, but only with your own testimony, and you have to remain calm. Marcus's attorney will try to provoke you to make you look exactly like this report describes. I nodded weakly. I'll do my best. But doing my best meant nothing inside the house that had turned into a battlefield. Marcus didn't move out. Instead, he moved into the guest room and continued living under the same roof, pretending nothing was wrong in front of Zoe while quietly poisoning everything behind the scenes. He came home early every day, bringing Zoe expensive gifts. One night, he presented her with a brand new tablet in a bright pink box. This has a better camera than your old one, he said loudly, with a pointed look toward me. Daddy installed lots of games. When you live with Daddy, Shulk, you'll get new toys all the time. Not like someone who spends her life folding laundry. My throat tightened. I kept folding clothes in silence. He knew I had no money to buy Zoe anything. He knew it hurt, and he enjoyed it. Every day, he chipped away at my authority. If I cooked dinner, he would taste it and say, "A little salty again? It's okay. We'll get takeout tomorrow." If I helped Zoe with homework, he'd interrupt, "Let me handle it. Mommy's way is too confusing." Zoe started to hesitate, caught between love for me and the attention she got from Marcus. Sometimes she clung to me as if sensing danger, but other times she seemed unsure, especially after Marcus whispered in her ear. One night, after Zoe fell asleep, I noticed something strange. Her new tablet sat on the desk, but she was clutching her old cracked tablet under her pillow, holding it tight even in sleep. I brushed her hair gently, confused. I didn't know that the answer to everything was hidden inside but that battered little device. I simply kissed her forehead and walked away, unaware that doomsday was approaching faster than I could imagine. The breaking point came a few days later. Zoe's school dismissal time came and went, yet she didn't appear at the gate. After 10 anxious minutes, I called the school. The secretary's cheerful voice cut through my panic. "Oh, Miss Carter." "Don't worry, Zoe was already picked up. Her father signed her out." My fingers tightened around the phone. Marcus hadn't said a word. I called him. No answer. Called again. No answer. Texted. Nothing. By the second hour, I was pacing the living room, tears blurring my vision. By the third hour, I could barely breathe. At 9 p.m., the front door finally opened. Zoe burst inside laughing, carrying a huge bag overflowing with toys and cotton candy from an amusement park. Mommy Daddy took me to Wonderland Park. It was so fun behind her. Marcus walked in slowly, smirking in a way that made my blood run cold. The faint scent of a woman's perfume drifted from his shirt, something floral, expensive, unfamiliar. "Marcus," I said, my voice cracking. "Why did you take Zoe without telling me? Do you have any idea how terrified I was?" He shrugged. "I'm her father. I don't need your permission." But he cut me off. "Save it. Zoe had a great time. Stop ruining it with your drama." I opened my mouth, but the scent on his shirt overpowered every thought. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't his usual cologne. He followed my stare, and a slow smile curled across his face. "Notice something." "Who is she?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Marcus stepped closer. "None of your business. She's everything you're not. Smart, successful, actually interesting, and she knows how to take care of a man." My knees weakened. He leaned down, his voice venomous. "Compared to her, Emily, you're boring." That night, Zoe came into my room and found me crying silently. "Mommy, are you sick?" she whispered, her small face filled with concern. I wiped my eyes quickly. "No, sweetheart. Mommy just has a little headache." Zoe hesitated. "Daddy said, you're sad a lot, because you're sick inside, and that if I live with Daddy, you can rest and get better." My heart shattered. Marcus had been planting poison in her mind, manipulating her, grooming her to believe leaving me would be an act of kindness. I hugged her tightly, struggling not to break. "Zoe, I'm not sick. I love you more than anything. Okay, don't ever forget that." Over her shoulder, I saw a shadow outside the door, Marcus watching us, smirking. He walked past the doorway, brushing his hand against my shoulder with deliberate cruelty as he whispered, "Enjoy these moments. Soon, she won't even call you Mom." The next day was mediation. It was a joke. Marcus sat beside his attorney, Richard Cole, looking composed and gentle, playing the victim as if he were the one suffering. Richard placed a stack of papers on the table with a thud. "Our client's position is simple. Mrs. Carter has failed in her duties as a wife and mother. He seeks full custody. Daniel Brooks tried his best. Emily is willing to negotiate. She only wants to share custody. She doesn't want to fight." Richard leaned forward with a predatory smile. "There is nothing to negotiate. If she doesn't sign, we go to trial and everything we have will bury her." I trembled. "This is insane. You can't take my daughter?" Richard shrugged, then prepared to be humiliated in court. Mediation collapsed completely. The weeks that followed felt like walking through a storm with no shelter. The first day of trial came faster than I expected. The courtroom was cold, the air too thin. I felt small, fragile, like I didn't belong there. Marcus sat tall and confident. When the judge entered, Richard went first, presenting the photos of the messy house, the credit card statements, and the expert testimony of Dr. Vanessa Hale. I watched Vanessa walk into the courtroom, a polished, elegant woman with her hair pulled back, her steps sure and proud. She looked nothing like a villain. Until she walked past me. That perfume. The same scent I smelled on Marcus's shirt. The blood drained from my face. She sat in the witness box and began her performance. In my observations, Mrs. Carter exhibits patterns of emotional volatility and inconsistent parenting. She shows signs of distress that negatively impact the child. I stared at her in disbelief. Each incident she described had been twisted. At the mall, when Zoe almost stepped onto the wrong escalator, she said I yanked Zoe violently and yelled, causing public distress. At the park, when Zoe tripped, and I rushed to comfort her, she said I ignored Zoe until she fell, then overreacted with hysteria. Every word she spoke was a lie dressed in clinical vocabulary, and Marcus watched calmly, his hands folded neatly, as if this were all normal. Daniel did his best on cross-examination, but Vanessa dodged everything, answering with confidence, poise, and just enough charm to seem credible. Then came my turn. Daniel guided me through my life as a stay-at-home mother, my dedication to Zoe, the truth behind the photographs, the credit card manipulation. I told everything honestly. Some in the courtroom looked at me with sympathy, but the judge's face remained unreadable. Then Richard Cole stood. His voice dripped with condescension. So, Mrs. Carter, let me get this straight. You're saying everything your husband ever did was part of some grand conspiracy. The photos, the statements, the psychologist. All lies. Are you perfect? Have you made no mistakes? No, of course not. But, so you admit you failed. I never. He held up a blown-up photograph of me, in my pajamas, hair disheveled, crying on the bedroom floor. My breath caught. Is this you? Mrs. Carter, screaming unstable, hysterical. That was after Marcus. He provoked me, he said. So you admit you scream? You admit emotional instability? No. My voice cracked, too loud. You weren't there. You don't know what he did? He wanted me to? Exactly what Dr. Hale described. Richard said triumphantly. I felt something inside me snap. I stood up, shaking. He set me up. He took that picture on purpose. He called me useless, worthless. He broke me. He's the one who Mrs. Carter, the judge, barked, banging the gavel. Sit down. Compose yourself. I collapsed into my chair, sobbing. Across the room, Marcus lowered his head in fake sadness, playing the role of the wounded father whose unstable wife was proving his point. I realized, right then, that we were losing. Daniel whispered softly, Emily, stay calm. It's not over. But it felt over. Everything felt over. I spent that night sitting beside Zoe, watching her sleep, brushing tears off her cheek when they fell from mine. Tomorrow, the verdict would be read. Tomorrow, Marcus might take her away from me forever. I kissed her forehead and whispered, whatever happens, I love you. Baby, she stirred, tightening her grip around her old tablet, the same cracked tablet she refused to replace, the same tablet that held a secret I still didn't know existed, a secret that would save us both. The next morning, the courtroom felt colder than ever, the kind of cold that cuts through skin and bone. I sat stiffly beside Attorney Daniel Brooks, my hands trembling so badly I had to weave my fingers together to keep them still. I hadn't slept, not even for a minute. My mind replayed every moment I'd lived with Marcus, every insult, every humiliation, every time I had let myself believe things would get better. Across the room, Marcus looked like he had just stepped out of a magazine-perfect suit, smooth hair, confident posture. He chatted quietly with Richard Cole as if this were a business meeting, not a battle to rip a child from her mother. Behind him sat Doctors Vanessa Hale, wearing a cream dress, chin raised, her expression calm and smug. She looked like someone arriving to receive an award. The judge entered. Everyone rose. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The judge's voice was steady, authoritative. We are here today to deliver the verdict in the matter of Marcus Carter versus Emily Carter. My breath caught. Daniel touched my arm gently, reminding me to breathe. But then the judge continued, before delivering the final ruling, both sides may provide brief closing statements. Richard Cole rose immediately. He delivered his speech with the confidence of someone certain of victory. He highlighted the photographs, the financial statements, and especially the testimony of the esteemed Dr. Hale, emphasizing how her expert report aligned with my emotional outburst during the previous hearing. As you can see, Your Honor, Richard concluded, looking at me with cold triumph, Mrs. Carter is emotionally unstable. Mr. Carter seeks only to protect his child. The choice is clear. He sat down with a satisfied smirk. Daniel stood next. His voice was gentle but unwavering. What we have witnessed, he said, is not justice, but a calculated attempt to destroy a woman, a mother who has dedicated her life to her child. Photos taken out of context, statements manipulated, expert testimony drawn from staged or distorted incidents. None of it reflects the truth of who Emily Carter is. I blinked hard, feeling tears rising. She's not perfect, Daniel continued, but she is a loving, devoted mother. And no mother should lose her child because someone with wealth and malice decides she should. His words were beautiful, but I could tell he knew as I did they weren't enough. The physical evidence, fabricated or not, outweighed emotion. The judge adjusted his glasses, opened the thick file, and began reading. After reviewing all documents, testimonies, and evidence presented, my stomach twisted. The plaintiff, Mr. Carter, has successfully... My heart stopped. But before the judge finished his sentence, a voice rang out in the room, small, high-pitched, but unmistakably clear. Your Honor, stop. The entire courtroom turned. There, standing in the slightly open door, was Zoe. Her hair was a little messy from running. Her backpack hung off one shoulder. She clutched something tightly, a cracked old tablet. Marcus's eyes widened in pure panic. Zoe. What are you doing here? You can't be in here. Go outside. Security. Richard barked. Remove the child at once. Your Honor, this is highly irregular silence, the judge commanded. The room froze. Zoe took a step forward, then another, her sneakers softly tapping against the marble floor. She didn't look at Marcus. She didn't look at me either. She walked with purpose straight toward the judge. Your Honor, she said, her voice trembling but determined. I need to show you something. Something my mommy doesn't know about. A chilling silence fell. The judge leaned forward. Zoe, who brought you here? My Aunt Melissa drove me. But I sneaked inside by myself. Marcus shot up. Zoe. Sit down right now. Mr. Carter, the judge snapped. You will remain silent, or I will have you removed. Zoe swallowed hard, gripping the tablet tighter. Daddy said my mommy is bad, she said. Daddy said mommy yells and cries and can't take care of me. Dr. Hale said that too, but that's not true. My breath caught. I pressed my hand over my mouth. Zoe looked at the judge with those pure, honest eyes. Your Honor, can you please watch this video? Richard Cole immediately jumped to his feet. Absolutely not. A video recorded by a minor without consent? Daniel stood as well. That video may directly contradict the testimony of Dr. Hale, Your Honor. It should be admitted. Order, the judge thundered. Bring me that device. A clerk gently took the tablet from Zoe, connected it to the courtroom's monitor system. The large screens flickered, then displayed the tablet's cracked home screen. Vanessa Hale stiffened. Marcus leaned forward, horrified. He recognized what was coming. Zoe pointed to a file in the video gallery. "That one," she whispered. The clerk tapped the thumbnail. The video filled the screen. The angle was low, hidden, as if the device was propped behind something. The audio was clear. The living room of our home appeared: our sofa, our rug, the tall plant pot, the place where Zoe often hid when she played hide and seek. Then 2 figures walked into frame: Marcus and Vanessa Hale. Not in professional clothing, Vanessa wore loungewear. Her hair down, Marcus's hands on her waist. He kissed her neck. She laughed. A murmur rippled across the courtroom. I felt the world tilt. Marcus lunged forward in his chair. "Turn it off. This is manipulated. Mr. Carter, you will sit down." The judge barked. The video continued. Vanessa's voice. "Are you sure your plan will work? Your wife is so stupid." Marcus laughed. "Stupid and obedient? She'll never suspect anything. All the money's already in your account. Baby." A loud gasp erupted from the audience. Daniel's eyes widened. "My God." I covered my mouth, shaking. Marcus had transferred our joint funds into Vanessa's account. Vanessa's voice again. "And what about your daughter?" "She seems really attached to her mom, Marcus." "The kid's easy. Give her a tablet, some toys. She'll forget her mother. You'll be her new mom, someone successful and a lot sexier." I felt like I couldn't breathe. Marcus lunged again, screaming, "Turn it off." The guards grabbed him, pinning his arms behind his back. "Continue the video," the judge ordered coldly. Vanessa's voice wavered on screen. "What about my testimony? What if her lawyer refutes it?" Marcus laughed darkly. "I already recorded Emily crying last week. I'll provoke her in court again. She'll scream and break down just like before. The judge will see she's unstable. No one will believe her." On screen. He and Vanessa toasted with wine glasses, smiling like they'd already won. The video ended abruptly. Silence swallowed the room. Even the air felt heavy. The judge slowly rose from his seat, his face stiff, burning with anger. "Guards," he said, voice icy. "Secure all exits. No one leaves." Vanessa stood abruptly, panicked, attempting to escape. A female guard intercepted her instantly. Marcus, still restrained, wouldn't stop shouting. It was her idea. "She forced me." Vanessa screamed back, "You liar! You promised me everything." Every lie they had crafted was falling apart, devouring them whole. I felt Zoe's hand slip into mine. I looked down at her trembling little fingers, and my heart nearly burst. She had saved me. She had saved us both. The judge struck his gavel once more. "The court will resume," he said, "and justice will be delivered." The courtroom, once filled with smug confidence from Marcus's side, now felt like a cage closing in on him. The judge's jaw was tight, his rage barely contained beneath the authority of his robe. He stared at Marcus first, then Vanessa, then attorney Richard Cole, each of them exposed, stripped of the lies they had carefully constructed. "Bring the witness," he commanded. The guards dragged Vanessa to the front. Her elegant cream dress was wrinkled from the struggle. Her perfect composure was gone, her makeup smudged, her eyes swollen with panic. She looked nothing like the polished psychologist who had confidently destroyed my reputation just days ago. She was trembling, wide-eyed, desperate. "Seat her," the judge said. They forced her into the witness stand, though at that moment, she looked more like a defendant awaiting a sentence. Next, the judge turned toward Richard Cole. The seasoned attorney who moments earlier swaggered with self-assurance now looked ashen, sweat pooling at his collar. He avoided the judge's eyes, avoided everyone's eyes. He knew his career was crumbling. Finally, the judge faced Marcus. "Mr. Carter," he began, voice steady but sharp. "Do you still wish to maintain that this evidence is fabricated?" Marcus, pinned by the guards, swallowed hard. His eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape that didn't exist. She set me up," he stammered, jerking his head toward Vanessa. It was all her idea. Vanessa shot up instantly. You liar! You told me to do it. You told me you were going to marry me. You took the money. You said you'd get rid of her and we'd start over enough. The judge roared, slamming his gavel. The sound cracked through the air like thunder. That is enough from both of you. Your guilt is evident. Your admissions captured on court record and video. You have disgraced this courtroom, defrauded the legal system, and inflicted unspeakable harm on a mother and her child. My chest tightened. Zoe squeezed my hand. The judge turned to Vanessa with a chilling finality. Dr. Hale. Hale. You testified under oath, knowingly providing false professional assessments to support fraud. You abused your credentials, violated your code of ethics, and participated in a conspiracy to destroy a family. Your license will be revoked, and you will face criminal charges for perjury and collusion. Vanessa sagged into the chair, sobs breaking from her chest. Then came Richard Cole. Mr. Cole? The judge said, voice frosted over. As an attorney, you were obligated to seek truth and justice, not weaponize lies. Whether or not you knew of Mr. Carter's affair, you clearly saw fabricated evidence, yet pursued this case aggressively. Your conduct was malicious, unethical, and a stain on this profession. Richard trembled. His voice cracked. Your Honor, you will be reported to the state bar. Your license will be suspended pending further investigation. This court will not tolerate attorneys who facilitate injustice. He sank into his chair, hollow, defeated. The judge then stood. The room fell completely silent. Mr. Carter, he said slowly, your actions are the most reprehensible of all. Marcus lifted his head slightly. His bravado shattered, his arrogance gone. You sought to strip your wife of her dignity. You stole from her. You recruited a psychological professional to falsify reports. You manipulated your own daughter. You tampered with evidence. You lied to this court. And worst of all, you attempted to sever a child from a loving mother. Every sentence felt like a nail sealing Marcus's fate. For these reasons, your divorce petition is hereby dismissed in its entirety. Marcus's face twisted in shock. He had spent months crafting that petition, but the judge wasn't finished. He faced me. For the first time that day, his eyes softened. Mrs. Carter, he said, do you wish to file for divorce at this moment? I stood, legs shaking, but my voice was steady. Yes, Your Honor, I want a divorce. Very well, he said. The court grants your request. Emily Carter is awarded the divorce on the grounds of adultery, fraud, and emotional abuse by Mr. Carter. My heart clenched. Relief washed through my chest so forcefully I almost couldn't breathe. Furthermore, the judge continued, full and permanent custody of the minor child, Zoe Carter, is granted to Mrs. Emily Carter with immediate effect. Zoe gasped quietly. I felt her squeeze my hand and I held her close, tears slipping down my face. Additionally, the judge declared, all assets, accounts, and properties under the names of Marcus Carter and Vanessa Hale will be frozen effective immediately. This court orders a full investigation into the transfer of marital funds. Any funds proven to be taken illegally will be returned to Mrs. Carter. Marcus's mouth hung open, furious but helpless. And lastly, the judge's voice sharpened to a knife's edge. Carter and Ms. Haley are hereby ordered to be taken into custody for the following criminal charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, domestic financial theft, perjury, and tampering with evidence in a court of law. The room erupted. 2 guards snapped handcuffs onto Marcus's wrists. He struggled, shouting incoherent protests, but he was dragged toward the exit. Vanessa was handcuffed next. Her legs gave out and she collapsed, sobbing hysterically as the guards pulled her away. The rustle of shocked whispers washed through the courtroom like a tidal wave. But as all the chaos unfolded, all I could see was Zoe, my daughter, my miracle, my little hero. I knelt down, pulled her close, and she threw her arms around my neck, burying her face in my shoulder. "We're okay, Mommy," she whispered. "We're okay now." And for the first time in what felt like years, I believed it. We were safe. We were free. And justice had finally spoken. News of the explosive courtroom scandal spread through the city like wildfire. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse, trying to piece together how a respected father, a licensed psychologist, and a well-known attorney had conspired to destroy a stay-at-home mother. But while the world buzzed, I felt strangely quiet inside. The storm was finally moving away from me. In the days that followed, Attorney Daniel Brooks took care of everything. He handled the paperwork, guided the investigation, and shielded me from the media frenzy. The state froze all of Marcus's accounts and seized Vanessa's assets pending the financial audit. Every dollar Marcus had stolen, almost $1 million, was tracked and returned to an account in my name. The house that once felt like a prison was now legally mine, but I couldn't stay there. Every room was a battlefield scarred by Marcus's cruelty. The kitchen where he criticized everything I cooked. The hallway where he brushed past me like I didn't exist. The guest room door where I heard him whispering to Vanessa at night. I didn't want Zoe growing up trapped in those memories. So, with Daniel's help, I listed the house. It sold within weeks, big backyard, modern kitchen, great neighborhood. To everyone else, it was a dream home. To me, it was a haunting museum of every tear I'd swallowed. The moment the sale closed, I packed 2 suitcases, Zoe hugged her stuffed unicorn, and we walked away from that house forever. The sentencing hearing for Marcus and Vanessa took place a month later. Marcus Carter, 12 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, financial theft, perjury, and emotional endangerment of a minor. Vanessa Hale, 8 years for professional misconduct, perjury, and participation in the conspiracy. Her license as a psychologist was permanently revoked. Attorney Richard Cole, indicted by the Ethics Board, disbarred, and faced additional charges for misconduct. Every one of them fell exactly the way they had planned for me to fall. There was a moment during the hearing, just before the bailiff led Marcus away, that he turned his head and looked at me, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with hollow disbelief, as if he still couldn't understand how everything unrificuled, or how a child caught him in the one place he thought he was untouchable. I didn't look away. I didn't forgive him either. Some wounds don't heal with forgiveness. They heal with freedom. 3 months later, Zoe and I stood in our new apartment, a modest, cozy 3-bedroom on the quieter side of town. Sunlight streamed through the big living room windows, bouncing off the light gray walls. The place smelled like cinnamon sugar from the cookies cooling on the counter. My new life didn't look like the luxury home Marcus flaunted, but it felt like peace, real peace, the kind I had forgotten existed. I had started a small catering business from home, Emily's Homestyle Kitchen, named by Zoe herself. What Marcus once mocked as just cooking had become our independence. Orders were picking up fast birthday cakes, dinner trays for busy families, comfort food for elderly neighbors. I was tired, always busy. Flour constantly stuck in my hair, but for the first time in years, I felt alive. Zoe adjusted faster than I imagined. She decorated her new room with fairy lights and drawings taped to the walls. She planted daisies in tiny pots on our balcony, watering them every morning like a ritual. One sunny afternoon, I sat on a park bench watching her push herself on the swings. The sound of children laughing filled the air. This was the kind of life I always wanted for her light. Simple. Safe. "Mommy, look," she shouted, running over with dirt on her hands. "The flowers at home are going to bloom soon." I smiled and brushed her hair behind her ear. "That's amazing." "Sweetheart, you take such good care of them." We sat together in the warm afternoon sun, and I finally asked the question that had been quietly burning inside me ever since the trial. "Zoe," I said softly, "can I ask you something important?" She nodded, her feet dangling from the bench. "Why did you record that video? Why did you hide your old tablet instead of using the new one Daddy gave you?" Zoe looked down at her hands, thinking, because I didn't like Miss Vanessa. My heart tightened. Why not? Because she lied, Zoe said simply. She smiled at you when you were around. But when you went to the bathroom at the mall, she told Daddy, your wife takes forever. And another time at the park, she saw me fall. She told Daddy you weren't watching me, but Mommy, you were watching me. You always watch me. I felt my chest ache not from pain, but from a bittersweet pride. And that night, Zoe continued, voice small. Daddy said he was working late, but I heard his car. I wanted to show him my drawing, so I went downstairs. She hesitated, her brows furrowing. And I saw him with Miss Vanessa. Daddy hugged her. I got scared. So I hid behind the big plant. I had my old tablet because Daddy took my new one to install more games. So I just pressed record. Because Mommy told me once that if someone does something bad, you should have proof. I covered my mouth, tears pooling in my eyes. I remembered saying that to her once, after a classmate had stolen her pencil and denied it. I never imagined those simple words would save our lives. But, sweetheart, I whispered, why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep it a secret so long? Zoe lowered her voice. Because Daddy said you weren't supposed to know. He said you were too dumb to figure it out. My breath caught. Zoe. And I thought, maybe Daddy would get mad at me if I told. So I kept it. But in court, when the judge said I might have to live with Daddy, I knew Mommy wasn't bad. Daddy and Miss Vanessa were lying. So I had to show the judge. A sob escaped me. I pulled her into my arms. Zoe, you are the bravest girl I've ever known. She hugged me back, her small hands gripping tightly. I didn't want to lose you. Mommy, you'll never lose me, I whispered, kissing the top of her head. Not ever. And in that moment, sitting on a park bench with sunlight warming our backs and the sound of children playing nearby, I realized something profound. For all those years Marcus told me I was failing. For all the ways he tried to make me doubt myself. For every moment he convinced me I wasn't good enough. I had raised a child who knew truth from lies, a child who understood courage, a child who stood up to injustice even when the adults around her couldn't. I hadn't failed. I had raised a hero. The evening after Zoe and I shared that conversation at the park, we walked home hand in hand. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. I watched her skipping slightly beside me, humming a little tune she'd made up, and in that moment, I realized something I never thought I'd feel again. Peace. Not the fragile peace I once tried to create inside a toxic marriage, where every quiet moment felt like walking on thin ice, but a real peace, one built on truth, safety, and freedom. We entered our apartment, and the warm smell of cinnamon cookies greeted us. Zoe ran to set her backpack down and changed into her pajamas, ready for her little evening ritual of story time. I joined her on the couch, wrapping my arm around her as she leaned into me with her favorite unicorn plush. Mommy, she murmured. Yes. Baby. Are we going to be okay with us forever? I kissed the top of her head. Yes. Sweetheart. We're going to be more than okay, Rika. We're going to build a beautiful life together. Her small body relaxed. For a child who had lived for months in an emotional battlefield she never understood, those words mattered. Safety mattered. Later that night, as I cleaned up the kitchen and boxed up cookies for tomorrow's deliveries, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different, almost unrecognizable from the woman I used to be. Not just because I was smiling, though that was part of it. It was the strength in my eyes, the steadiness in my hands, the certainty in my posture. I had gone through hell, and I had come out whole. Not because the system saved me, but because my daughter, my little girl, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She found the truth. She carried it. She protected it. And she brought it into the light when the world tried to bury me. She saved me. But the truth was, I had saved her first. All those years I thought I was failing. I had been teaching her to see right from wrong, to trust her instincts, to pay attention, to love deeply. I had given her everything I had, and she became the strongest reflection of that. In the end, the real revenge didn't come from anger or violence or even the judge's verdict. It came from truly living after someone tried to destroy you. Revenge came in the form of rebuilding, healing, and choosing a better life. Months later, something happened that marked a new chapter in our lives. One Saturday morning, Zoe ran into the living room holding a small pot. The daisies she'd planted on our balcony had finally bloomed, tiny white petals with bright yellow centers, swaying gently in the morning breeze. "Mommy, look," she beamed. They opened. I knelt beside her, admiring the flowers. "They're beautiful." "Zoe." "They're strong," she said proudly. "Just like us." I wrapped my arms around her, and for the first time in years, tears fell from my eyes, not because of pain, but because of overwhelming gratitude. Life had been hard, cruel, unfair, but life had also given me Zoe, and nothing, not manipulation, not abuse, not lies, could ever take her from me again. We stood up, hand in hand, as the morning sunlight spilled across our small apartment. The future wasn't glamorous, it wasn't wealthy, but it was ours honest, warm, and full of possibility. And that, more than anything, was victory. Before you go, I want to ask you one simple question. Which city or state are you watching from? Because this channel isn't just about stories, it's about people. People who have lived through injustice. People searching for healing. People who understand what it means to suffer quietly and rise silently. If this story touched you, if you felt for Emily, if Zoe's bravery moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support helps this channel grow so we can continue sharing more stories of truth, resilience, and the quiet strength buried inside everyday people. And who knows, maybe your comment today might be the message someone else needs to read tomorrow. With love, respect, and strength. See you in the next life story.